The night sea churned violently, the ship rocking with brutal force. In the medical bay, a brown-haired nurse quietly pulled on surgical gloves. A sailor whispered, "She's just a nurse. What could she possibly do?" On the makeshift operating table lay the captain, a metal fragment dangerously close to his aorta. No doctor available. 12 minutes later, the final suture pulled tight. The entire bay fell silent. The commanding officer turned. "This whole ship owes her their lives." Meet Clare Marlowe. 31 years old, European heritage, long brown hair always neatly pulled back behind her ears. She had that kind of quiet beauty that people noticed but never quite remembered afterward. Slender but sturdy build beneath her simple naval medical uniform, collar always buttoned precisely to the top, clean hands, short nails, a small scar on her left thumb that nobody ever asked about. She'd just been assigned to HMS Resolute as an auxiliary nurse in the naval medical team. The atmosphere from day one was completely dismissive. When she first boarded the ship, everyone welcomed the chief medical officer with enthusiastic handshakes and hearty greetings. They clapped him on the back, offered to show him around, made sure he felt important and valued. Claire? She got polite nods at best. Brief acknowledgments, perfunctory hellos. During mess hall dinners, she'd sit alone at the end of long metal tables while animated conversations flowed around her, like water flowing around a stone. One particularly memorable evening, a cocky young sailor named Peterson decided to share his profound wisdom with his table mates. "When things get really serious out here, we need real doctors with real training, not just nurses who hand out Band-Aids." His buddies chuckled into their soup bowls, shooting glances at Claire to see if she'd react. She just smiled softly and continued eating her meal. No defensive response, no hurt feelings displayed, no attempt to educate them about her qualifications. Just that calm, almost impossibly composed demeanor that made her seem somehow untouchable. But Claire had this particular way about her. Small, consistent acts of genuine kindness that people somehow managed to completely overlook or systematically minimize. Take young Seaman Rodriguez, barely 19 years old. The kid burned his hand pretty badly while fixing a stubborn engine valve down in the machinery spaces. Most ship medics would have quickly slapped some standard burn gel on it, wrapped it in basic gauze, and sent him back to work. Not Claire. She spent a full 20 minutes carefully cooling the wound with precisely temperature-controlled water, applied specialized burn dressing with surgical precision, then gave him detailed aftercare instructions written out by hand. She showed him exactly how to change the dressing, what signs of infection to watch for, when to come back for follow-up. The kid was genuinely amazed by her thoroughness. "Why are you being so incredibly thorough? It's just a minor burn that'll heal in a few days." Claire looked up from her careful documentation, those steady, intelligent eyes meeting his directly. "Details keep people alive, Rodriguez. Every single detail matters when someone's health is at stake." That quiet philosophy became her unspoken motto aboard the ship. Details keep people alive. Every single night, long after the medical bay had emptied out and most of the crew was either on duty or sleeping, Claire would methodically check and recheck absolutely everything. Surgical instruments cleaned and arranged with mathematical precision. Arterial clamps tested for proper tension and responsiveness. Monitoring equipment carefully calibrated to exact specifications. Emergency medications inventoried and rotated according to expiration dates. The other medical personnel thought her routine was completely excessive for someone who was supposedly just a ship's nurse. They had absolutely no idea what they were actually looking at. They couldn't recognize the signs of someone who'd learned these habits under circumstances where a single oversight could mean multiple deaths. In Claire's uniform pocket, she always carried an old surgical needle with Fallujah 2007 inches carefully etched into the metal handle. Not a single person on that ship understood what those specific words meant. Not yet. 3 weeks into their deployment, everything changed in a single devastating instant. An explosion rocked the entire ship with tremendous force. Not a direct hit from enemy fire, but close enough to send deadly shrapnel tearing through the reinforced hull like paper. The sound was absolutely deafening, that horrible, gut-wrenching combination of grinding, twisted metal and human screams that experienced sailors dread more than anything else in the world. Emergency alarm systems blared at maximum volume as the ship listed dangerously to starboard, throwing people against bulkheads and equipment. Casualties immediately started flooding into the medical bay in a chaotic stream. Severe burns from superheated metal fragments, deep lacerations from flying debris, broken bones from sailors being violently thrown against solid surfaces, concussions from impact trauma. But by far the worst case was Captain Morrison himself, their commanding officer. A jagged, irregularly shaped piece of metal shrapnel had penetrated deep into his lower abdomen, lodging dangerously close to his abdominal aorta. One wrong movement, one slight shift of that fragment, and he would bleed out completely within minutes. The chief medical officer was trapped in another section of the ship, completely unreachable. Significant fire damage had sealed off the connecting passages, and engineering estimated it would take at least an hour to cut through the twisted wreckage safely. The backup medical officer, Lieutenant Commander Hayes, took one careful look at the captain's wound and went visibly pale. His hands actually started shaking as he realized the severity of what he was looking at. "We have to wait for the chief," he announced to everyone in the medical bay, his voice betraying obvious anxiety. "Nobody currently here is qualified to perform this level of complex surgery. It's beyond our training and capabilities." That's exactly when the whispers started circulating among the medical staff and injured sailors. "A nurse definitely can't perform major surgery. It's strictly against military regulations. We just have to hope and pray he holds on long enough. Maybe we can stabilize him somehow until real help arrives." Claire stood calmly at the captain's bedside, continuously monitoring his vital signs with professional precision. Blood pressure dropping steadily, pulse becoming increasingly thready and irregular, skin growing pale and clammy. All the classic signs of impending hemorrhagic shock. She looked up directly at Lieutenant Commander Hayes with those steady, unblinking eyes. "If we wait for the chief medical officer to arrive, Captain Morrison will be dead before anyone can help him," she stated matter-of-factly. "Nurse Marlowe, I completely understand your concern for the captain, but medical protocols exist for very good reasons. His systolic blood pressure is down to 80/50 and falling rapidly. He's entering early-stage hemorrhagic shock. The metal fragment is putting direct pressure on the aortic wall, but hasn't actually punctured the vessel yet. Based on his current rate of blood loss, we have maybe 25 to 30 minutes maximum before irreversible shock sets in." She paused, letting the implication sink in completely. After that point, even the best surgeon in the world won't be able to save him. The entire medical bay fell into an uncomfortable, heavy silence. Everyone present knew exactly what happened when someone went into severe hemorrhagic shock. They'd all seen it before during their naval careers. It wasn't pretty, and it wasn't survivable without immediate intervention. "Prepare surgical instruments immediately," Claire said quietly, but with unmistakable authority. "Nurse Marlowe, you absolutely cannot possibly— Get me a number 10 scalpel, DeBakey arterial clamps in multiple sizes, high-volume irrigation solution, and 2 units of O-negative blood warmed to body temperature. Right now." The old senior medic's experienced hands froze completely over the instrument tray. His eyes widened with sudden recognition. Those weren't basic nursing supplies or standard first aid materials. Those were highly specialized vascular surgery tools used only in the most complex operations. That particular combination, that's the exact same emergency setup we used to use with special operations combat medics in Afghanistan. But Claire wasn't waiting around for anyone's permission or approval anymore. She was already beginning the surgical scrub procedure with the methodical, practiced precision of someone who'd performed this exact routine hundreds of times before, under much worse conditions. "I need 2 units of O-negative blood warmed to exactly 98.6 degrees and ready for immediate transfusion. Get me a full cardiac monitor with real-time arterial pressure monitoring capability. Someone needs to maintain steady manual pressure on his carotid pulse while I work to track circulation. She paused in her scrubbing. And I need everyone who isn't directly assisting to clear out of this space immediately. Too many people will contaminate the sterile field. The incredible specificity of her rapid-fire medical request was beginning to seriously worry everyone present. This definitely wasn't guesswork or theoretical knowledge from textbooks. This was exact, practical knowledge of advanced trauma surgery protocols that took years of hands-on experience to master. Young Rodriguez, the same sailor she'd helped with his engine room burn weeks earlier, immediately volunteered to assist without hesitation. What exactly do you need me to do, Claire? Hold this arterial clamp absolutely steady once I position it. Don't move it even 1 millimeter in any direction. The metal fragment is currently sitting directly against the aortic wall. If it shifts even slightly the wrong way during the procedure, we lose him completely. We lose him completely. On Claire's wrist was a small, worn black paracord bracelet with exactly 4 precisely tied knots. Each individual knot represented a field surgery she'd successfully performed outside her official duties under combat conditions. She'd never told anyone what those knots meant. She'd never told anyone a lot of important things about her past. Beginning surgical procedure now, Claire announced with complete calm, her voice remaining absolutely steady despite the ship continuing to rock from the earlier explosion damage. For the next 12 intense, crucial minutes, every single person in that medical bay witnessed something genuinely extraordinary that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. Claire's initial incision was absolutely perfect, precise, confident, decisive. Not the hesitant, careful cut of someone attempting something far beyond their actual skill level, but the bold, sure stroke of an experienced surgeon who'd performed this exact procedure dozens of times before under much worse conditions. She worked with mechanical precision and efficiency, her hands never once trembling or hesitating despite the ship's constant movement and the tremendous pressure of the situation. Clamp the superior mesenteric artery exactly where I'm pointing, she instructed Rodriguez, who was doing his absolute best to follow her rapid-fire, highly technical commands. Perfect. Now irrigation solution. I need to see the complete extent of internal damage before I attempt to remove this fragment safely. The old senior medic watched in growing amazement and recognition. That specific suturing technique, I've only seen that particular method used in active combat zones. That's advanced battlefield surgery. Claire didn't respond to his observation. She was completely in what experienced medics call the zone. That state of absolute laser-focused concentration where literally nothing exists except the patient and the procedure. Her hands moved with the kind of instinctive muscle memory that takes many years of intensive practice to develop properly. Fragment is completely clear of the aortic wall, she announced to her makeshift surgical team, removing now. Watch carefully for any arterial bleeding or unexpected hemorrhage. The jagged metal shard came out cleanly in one smooth motion. No major vessel damage, no catastrophic bleeding. But Claire was far from finished with the procedure. She spent another full 8 minutes meticulously checking for hidden tears in surrounding tissue, securing multiple small bleeding vessels with surgical precision, and ensuring perfect hemostasis before even beginning the closure process. Where exactly did you learn to perform surgery like that? Lieutenant Commander Hayes whispered, clearly awed by what he was witnessing. Claire's skilled hands paused for just a brief moment in their work. Then she continued suturing with the same steady rhythm. Fallujah, Iraq, 2007 through 2009. Those 3 simple words hit everyone in the room like a physical blow to the chest. Fallujah. Every military medic in the world knew that name, one of the most brutal, intense combat zones of the entire Iraq War, where field medics regularly had to perform complex surgery under active enemy fire with severely limited equipment and unlimited personal courage. You served in Fallujah? Rodriguez asked quietly, still maintaining his assigned grip on the surgical clamp. Senior combat medic, attached to Special Operations Task Force Dagger, 2 complete combat tours. The old medic's mouth fell completely open in shock. Wait, Clare Marlowe? You're that Marlowe? The legendary medic who performed emergency vascular surgery during the famous Al-Anbar district ambush? Claire's hands never stopped their precise work, but something definitely shifted in her facial expression. That's still classified information, Chief. Holy hell, someone whispered from the back of the medical bay. You saved an entire Special Forces team during that massive firefight. I heard stories about that operation for years afterward. They said the unit medic performed multiple complex surgeries while under active enemy fire for over 3 straight hours. The incredible story began coming together piece by piece. In 2007, during one of the bloodiest, most dangerous periods of the entire Iraq War, Clare had been embedded with an elite special operations unit operating in Fallujah's most contested neighborhoods. During a particularly brutal, well-coordinated ambush by insurgent forces, their unit commander had taken serious shrapnel damage to his femoral artery. Without immediate surgical intervention, he would have bled to death within minutes. But Clare had accomplished far more than just immediate life-saving surgery. For over 3 continuous hours, while bullets flew constantly overhead and mortar rounds exploded all around their defensive position, she had performed complex vascular reconstruction surgery in a partially bombed-out building with nothing but a basic combat surgical kit and a failing flashlight for illumination. Not only had she successfully saved the commanding officer's life, but when 2 additional team members were critically wounded during the extended firefight, she had managed to stabilize them as well, using improvised techniques and incredible resourcefulness. The entire 12-man unit survived that seemingly impossible ambush because one remarkably skilled combat medic absolutely refused to accept that the tactical situation was hopeless. The official military records of that specific operation were immediately classified at the highest possible security levels. Clare's crucial role was deliberately buried in heavily redacted documents and permanently sealed files. As far as the general public knew, that particular heroic action had never actually happened. "Why didn't you ever tell anyone about your background?" Lieutenant Commander Hayes asked with genuine curiosity. "With your experience and proven capabilities, you could have been the chief medical officer on any ship in the entire fleet." Clare carefully finished the final suture and stepped back to thoroughly check Captain Morrison's vital signs on the monitoring equipment. Blood pressure was steadily stabilizing. Pulse was significantly stronger and more regular. Oxygen saturation was improving. The surgery had been a complete unqualified success. "Because," she said quietly while beginning to clean up the surgical area, "I didn't join the Navy to prove anything to anyone or to advance my career. I joined specifically to help people when they need it most, regardless of recognition or reward." The cardiac monitor displayed steady, strong, vital signs across all parameters. Captain Morrison was definitely going to live and make a full recovery. The commanding officer had arrived just in time to witness the final critical moments of the procedure. He stood silently in the doorway, taking in the entire scene, the successful surgery, the professional setup, the obvious advanced skill that had just saved their captain's life against impossible odds. "This whole ship owes you their lives," he said simply, with deep respect and gratitude. Clare was already methodically cleaning up, disposing of surgical materials with the same careful attention to detail she'd shown throughout the entire operation. "I just did exactly what I was trained to do, sir. Nothing more, nothing less." But every single person in that room knew they'd witnessed something truly extraordinary. Not just the surgery itself, but the stunning revelation of who Clare Marlowe really was. Not just a nurse at all, but one of the most skilled, experienced combat medics the military had ever produced. A genuine hero who'd been hiding in plain sight. CTA type, "I owe someone." If you've ever been saved by someone who never asked for credit. When the chief medical officer finally managed to make it back to the medical bay through the cleared passages, Clare simply handed him the completed patient chart and delivered a thoroughly professional briefing on Captain Morrison's current condition. No unnecessary dramatics, no ego or self-congratulation, just clear, concise medical facts. Patient is stable and responding well to treatment. Metal fragment successfully removed without any damage to major vessels or surrounding organs. I've administered appropriate prophylactic antibiotics and established comprehensive pain management protocols. Vital signs are strong and steady. He should make a complete recovery without complications. The chief medical officer carefully examined the surgical site, then looked at Claire with new understanding, then studied the absolutely perfect suture work again. You personally performed this entire surgery? Yes, sir. Emergency circumstances required immediate intervention to prevent loss of life. Claire, this is genuinely advanced vascular surgery. This level of technical precision and skill, where exactly did you learn to experience, sir? But word had already spread rapidly throughout the entire ship like wildfire. By the following morning, absolutely everyone knew that their quiet ship's nurse had single-handedly saved their commanding officer's life with a surgery that most ship's doctors wouldn't have dared to attempt under those conditions. The change in atmosphere aboard the ship was immediate, profound, and completely transformative. Young Rodriguez found Claire in the medical bay that evening, methodically organizing supplies with her usual systematic precision. Can I ask you something important? Of course, Rodriguez. During that surgery today, you were so incredibly calm under pressure. How do you manage to stay that calm when someone's life is literally in your hands? Claire looked up from her detailed inventory checklist, those steady, intelligent eyes meeting his directly. Staying calm is the only thing no one can ever take away from you, no matter how bad the situation gets. Fear doesn't help the patient survive. Panic doesn't stop the bleeding. Calm thinking and steady hands are what actually save lives when it matters most. Is that what you learned during your time in Fallujah? That's what I learned from watching good people die when they could have lived, if someone had just stayed calm enough to help them properly. When you know you have the ability to help someone, you help them. Everything else is just background noise that doesn't matter. Over the following days and weeks, something genuinely beautiful happened throughout the ship. The crew's attitude toward Claire didn't just change. It was completely transformed. But much more importantly, their attitude toward previously overlooked people in general began to shift in positive ways. They started paying serious attention to the quiet engine room mechanic who'd been preventing major mechanical failures through careful, proactive maintenance. They noticed the dedicated cook who'd been discreetly making sure everyone received proper nutrition despite ongoing supply limitations. They recognized the hard-working communications officer who'd been voluntarily working extra shifts to keep families connected to home. Claire had shown them all that extraordinary capability and heroism often hide behind ordinary job titles and quiet personalities. A week later, someone had written on the medical bay door in neat, careful handwriting, 12 minutes, and the whole ship lived. Claire never mentioned the inscription or asked who had written it, but she smiled genuinely every single time she saw those words. The ship's crew had learned to look deeper, to value substance over titles, to recognize quiet competence and hidden strength, and they had Clare Marlowe to thank for that invaluable lesson. CTA. Type, I will live kindly. If you believe skills and courage should be used to save others. Clare Marlowe's story reminds us that job titles don't determine someone's actual ability to save lives. Heart, skill, and courage do that. Those crucial 12 minutes didn't just save Captain Morrison's life. They held together the morale and fighting spirit of an entire naval vessel operating in a dangerous combat zone. When your commanding officer survives because someone stepped up when it mattered most, it fundamentally changes how you see everything around you. Sometimes the person everyone dismisses as just the assistant is actually the one holding the whole operation together through quiet competence. The unassuming nurse who turns out to be a decorated combat veteran with life-saving skills. The maintenance worker who prevents disasters through careful attention to important details. The administrative assistant who knows more about the company's actual operations than the executives do. Claire's inspiring story teaches us to look much deeper into the capabilities and true value of the people around us every day. That quiet, unassuming colleague might be the hero you simply haven't recognized yet. We live in a world that's obsessed with impressive titles and loud credentials. But real competence often wears humble clothes and speaks softly. True expertise doesn't always announce itself with fanfare. The most genuinely capable people frequently let their consistent work speak for itself rather than their words or self-promotion. Think carefully about the people in your own life who quietly make everything work better, the ones who solve problems without taking credit, who step up in emergencies without being asked, who possess skills and experience that go far beyond what their official job description suggests. These are the Clare Marlowes of the world. They're everywhere around us if you know how to look properly. The next time you're tempted to judge someone's capability by their title or first impression, remember a brown-haired nurse on a Navy ship who saved an entire crew with 12 minutes of precision surgery. Remember that true heroism often comes disguised as ordinary competence and quiet professionalism. And remember that the person who might save your life someday could be someone you've never bothered to really notice or appreciate. Real heroes don't always wear capes or seek recognition. Sometimes they wear scrubs. Sometimes they carry lunch boxes and work night shifts. Sometimes they sit quietly in meetings and never speak up until the moment everything depends on them. Clare Marlowe knew exactly who she was and what she could accomplish. She didn't need anyone else's recognition or validation to confirm her worth. But when the critical moment came, when lives hung in the balance, she stepped forward without hesitation and did what needed to be done. That's the true definition of quiet heroism.
If you believe in stories that touch the heart like this one, leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe to The Veteran's Story. We tell the stories that shouldn't be forgotten. Real people are creating and telling stories, not mass-produced AI.